I was testing it earlier and was fine, and then once I get started, then the signal drops. Just the way it is normally around here. Okay, let's just wait for it to get steady here. It's starting to steady up. Anyway, I'm sure you can hear me in spite of the constantly dropping video here. The topic tonight is going to be about topics. The topic is about topics. I don't know if you know about topics, but we'll get into that in a moment. And yeah, the signal's still wavering here. Still wavering. Anyway, the normal live stream format is 30 minutes on the given topic, and then we can open it up to Q&A after that. Just, is it 5x5 there? Apple dumpling? Is the video okay? I mean, I can see the signal is constantly dropping here. I mean, it's still enough to stream, but it's not steady. And it was steady just a moment ago, but the usual thing. When I broadcast, it starts getting bad. Not going to come up with a conspiracy theory on that, but it always goes bad when I live stream. Maybe it's the time. I don't know. So, okay. So, the topic tonight is going to be about something. I've actually talked about the precursor to this. I was talking before about the Federated learning of cohorts. It's a long time ago. A couple of years ago, I was talking about the Federated learning of cohorts. And now I'm not talking about the Federated learning of cohorts anymore, because now this has been replaced by something called topics. And what is interesting is that when I was looking at my screen and I happened to land on a special screen on Chrome, and then I noticed that topics was there. So in fact, it was listed on it, and I'll show it to you in a moment. But yeah, so topics, Google Topics, is a new strategy from Google, and you might think, if you actually read up on the description of what topics is, you might think it's actually Google doing something good for you. And I just want to make sure you know that that's not the reality. So let me just tell you the main premise of what Google's trying to do before with the original plan called Federated Learning of Cohorts, and then the switch to topics because they didn't like the way the Federated Learning of Cohorts was received, or FLOC. So what it is this. Advertisers, and this has to do with external advertising companies. So advertisers are always trying to track you in their own way, and they're trying to track you using browser fingerprinting. So browser fingerprinting is it's heavily used today. And Google wanted to stop that. And so Google said, okay, we're going to institute some changes into the browser. And the changes will basically limit the amount of data that a advertiser can take from a browser, so that after a certain amount of pieces of data are retrieved, the browser will lock up and say, enough. You've taken enough identifiers. And basically it's meant to shut down browser fingerprinting. So the browser will request, the advertising website, whatever those pop-up advertising things are, will pick up pieces of data like your screen size, your time zone, and all of these things that are used in browser fingerprinting, your color grade, and all the different elements of your screen, your extensions. But after a certain amount of these pieces of data, Chrome will shut down and say, enough, you've gotten enough. And basically it prevents the external party, in this case the advertiser, from picking up enough data to actually pinpoint the device. So it's a way to block browser fingerprinting. So, but Obviously, they don't want to shut down advertising because advertising is advertising is the way Google makes money. So what they said is, okay, we're going to do something for you. We're going to do something for you. What we're going to do is give you a way to track people, and we're going to call it Federated Learning of Cohorts, so that every person on the internet is going to be put into these cohorts, something I've talked about over and over, and you're going to be categorized, you're going to be profiled by Google, you're going to be put into these cohorts, and then we're going to share that cohort grouping on the browser to external parties. By the way, they actually did this. They actually did this a few months ago. People didn't know about it, but many of you became part of this, where Chrome just turned on the tracking, and you were all put into some sort of federated learning of some cohort. And you got categorized. So if you go to certain websites, you got categorized. Stuff that, I keep talking about. So that wasn't received too well, because advertisers didn't feel like they were getting enough information from that. So Google said, we're going to give you another one, and this one we're going to add more privacy to it, and we're going to call this new one called Topics. Topics is such a bad name because it's almost hiding what it is. It's almost so innocuous that you don't even think it's important. So Topics is the new version of Federated Learning of Cohorts, which means your browser, specifically Chrome, this is a Chrome thing only, your browser is actually tracking every website you visit. It's going to be part of the history. And then anytime you're going to a website, it says what kind of website did you go to show what interest you have. And then it takes that category of interest and puts that into your topics list. It's called, and then it becomes one of your topics, and you get so many topics. They don't allow too many topics, and then the topics are supposed to change every few weeks. I think 4 weeks. Can't remember. It says, we'll read it later. It does show you what the limits are. And basically, it's a short-term way of categorizing into a cohort. And you will find a way. There is a way to view your categorization, yes, or your topic group. So your cohort, your topic cohort. So there'll be a way to view that. Now the interesting thing here, and I want to just make a note of this, because I didn't notice this, and I just happen to have seen it, that Topics is now in Chrome settings. And I looked at it on several computers on mine, and mine doesn't have any topics. None. So you can check for yourselves on your own browsers. I'll show you where to check for it in a second. But you can check for it on your own browsers. But on mine, nothing comes up. There is no topics. And the reason this is kind of interesting is because I do browser fingerprinting. Browser isolation. I do browser isolation. So this is a Chrome only deal. So the reality is I do not use Chrome for any browsing of any website. My Chrome is dedicated to Google. So the only thing that is seen by Chrome are Google sites. So if it's not related to Google, I'm not gonna go there on Chrome. Now, what happened here is when I was using YouTube then required me, if I'm gonna look at the home screen, required me to turn on YouTube history. So I said, fine, okay, I'll turn on YouTube history. So I turn on YouTube history, and just to see what will happen, and it's giving me more repetitive YouTubes that, if I select, let's say, jazz, let's say I want to listen to Herbie Hancock, and I go to that video on YouTube, then I'm fed like 100 of his videos. So it's a little bit extreme, but okay, fine. At least I know what it's doing. Now, so I'm saying that, so Chrome is is tracking via topics, as I told you, and YouTube is tracking YouTube history, why is my topics blank? It's completely blank. I'll show you in a second. So why is it blank? So the interesting thing here is apparently YouTube history doesn't feed into topics. In fact, nothing Google seems to feed into topics, which is interesting. So let's say I go to Google Earth and look at Paris. So I want to go to Street View in Paris and look there. Okay. Nothing in topics. Somebody might say, I'm interested in travel. That Google actually knows that because I went to Google Earth and searched for location. It also knows what my interests are that I let it see, which is in Chrome. And so I went to YouTube, and yet there's nothing in topics. Now, because of this, many of you will actually think, oh, Google is being very nice. They're sticking to their old mantra, do no evil, even though they took that mantra away. So they're doing evil now, but back then they said, we're not going to do any evil. But now they seem to have agreed that they're going to do some evil. Okay? So, and this is why those advertisers do not like topics. Because I can see now what Google is doing here. Okay? So, topics is made for external parties. Basically, if you're an advertiser, you're selling an ad in a box, and you want to track the user with browser fingerprinting, and you can't do that anymore. So you want to know what is in the interest, what this person is interested in, so you can feed the right kind of ads. You're not going to get information about your interests from Google. So who knows? Maybe topics is not active yet. But if it is active, then what I'm seeing is that Google is saying, well, we'll track whatever websites you go to, but we're not going to give you information about Google sites, because we're going to hoard that information. Because here's the thing that's really funny. And I will show you where it is in settings, so you can all check it yourself. But see, I forgot what I was talking about now. So you don't dabble in topics. So anyway, I'll go. Well, actually, since I forgot what I was saying, let me just show you what it looks like. So hold on a second here. It's in settings. Get back to talking about this now. Okay, so this is kind of interesting here because no 5x5. Oh shuck. Oh goodness. Okay, I didn't realize that. When I shifted, I didn't have audio. See, I couldn't see your comments. Okay, you saw the screen. Okay, I'll talk about what you saw since you didn't hear my words there. So in that topics, in that list there and settings, privacy settings in Chrome, you will see the category called Add Privacy. And then I showed you there the Add Privacy section, and then you can see where you can look at the topics, and mine is completely blank. Okay, so the reason audio wasn't there was because I forgot to add audio to the screen, because you got to do that per scene. This is OBS. I'm using OBS, so I forgot to add. I didn't think about it. So yeah, so too late to do it now. So anyway, so that's where it is. That's where Add Topics is, and on mine it's blank. So the interesting thing about topics, and again, I want you all to look at that and look and see if any of you, and leave in the comments if any of you actually find anything in topics, because mine is blank. Maybe it's not on yet, I don't know. But if it is on, you can tell me if you're doing browser isolation or not, and then we'll see if my theory is correct. So the theory is that external parties will only see your categories if it's offered by Google. And it appears, at least to me, at least in my just cursory review here, that if I don't have any topics, I'm a sample of one, so this may not be accurate, that my topics are not showing anything, because the only thing I do on this browser is Google stuff. I don't, on Chrome, I only do Google, because I taught you this for a long time, browser isolation. If you're going to do browser isolation, use Chrome for Google. Don't waste the browser. Use it for something that's going to be spied on. Google's going to spy on Chrome, so might as well spy on itself, because it's not going to get any more information if you're logged into Google, if you're logged into YouTube, as you all here are now. So all of you here in the chat are all logged into Google. You might as well use Chrome, because they already know who you are. So, don't give them don't waste a browser. Set that browser to be Chrome. So based on my observation, at least, of what Topics is doing, it doesn't seem to provide any data about anything I'm doing on Google, on YouTube. None of that. It doesn't seem to have offered that kind of data, which is very interesting. It means they're saying to the third party, yeah, we'll tell you what sites this guy is looking at that is not Google, but when it comes to Google, we'll hoard that data. So this has been the same premise that I've been really talking about for a long time. And that is that Google is only interested in hoarding its own data. It doesn't want to share any data. Apple's doing the same thing now. So they're doing Apple Private Relay and all these things, and they're really restricting the kind of data that an external party might take from you, because they want to have it all themselves. All the pieces of data. For example, just to give you an example here, many of you know their location permissions, among other things, but that's one permission that you're very aware of. You can give location permissions on a browser. You have location permissions on your device, on your phone. But you should all know that Apple and Google, being the OS phone owners, do not need any location permissions. They track your location with so many other means, like Wi-Fi scanning and AirTag scanning and all that. And so there's a lot of stuff that's tracking locations with Apple and Google, and it's permissionless. There's no way to give permissions for any of this. You do not. There is a permission for something called Wi-Fi scanning on Google, but I have no idea if that actually means the Wi-Fi scanning of routers that give location, or it's just a general scan. I don't actually know. So we have to assume that we can't trust that, because because on AOSP that just means it's going to stop looking at routers. But that doesn't mean it's not stopping, Wi-Fi triangulation and all that. taking the signal strength of the routers the MAC address and then reporting it to Google. I have no idea if that's part of it or not. So we have to not trust. You can't use the words Wi-Fi scanning and assume, oh yeah, I turned it off. So Google is tracking your location constantly, but it doesn't share it. When you go to location settings and permissions in various screens, it actually is saying to you, you can stop location from being taken by any third party. The fine print is you cannot stop Google from taking your location. So many of you don't know that. So you're assuming you understand. I say, oh yeah, I guess I can trust Google. I guess I can trust Apple. Yeah, you go to Apple settings and there's a way to stop location tracking, and it doesn't tell you that applies to a third party, not to them. So Apple and Google are, able to know at every moment where that phone is, and obviously that should be apparent to you, anyone using Apple Find My Phone. You actually think Find My Phone turns it on. You don't realize that Find My Phone is actually always active, even on a phone that's not owned. So, I proved this in a video, which many people don't believe, but when I went to the Apple store, a computer I returned the computer, and I already reset it. I had no information on it, and they wanted me to go to my iCloud to turn off Find My Phone on that computer. Meaning the Find My Phone is nothing to do with the computer. The computer is always doing Find My Phone or Find My. The iCloud is simply to associate that device to the ID emitted by the device, because it's always emitting an identifier over the air saying, I'm over here. So yes, so the computer is always sending out location, and then Apple simply assigns that location to your iCloud. So that's why when you return a computer, because I returned a computer that I didn't want, and they wanted me to go to iCloud, even though the computer's already been reset. It's completely factory. I think it was an iPad. I forget what it is I got. Was it an iPad or? Yeah, I can't remember now. But the point is that you cannot stop location tracking, because the thing is just tracking, and I just disassociated myself from the device, meaning he didn't touch the device. The tech did not touch the device and said, I'm going to turn off Find My Phone on the device. He didn't ask me to do that, because there's no way to turn it off. He asked me to disconnect it via iCloud, which is my account, which is basically saying, whatever identifier this thing is revealing, I'm no longer associated with it, is now free for all, and Apple owns it now, can assign it to somebody else. So that's interesting fact. And some people argue with me about that. Oh, you must be, come on. You have to understand the technology. When I did that, it was obvious to me what was actually happening, which I was guessing to be true anyway, that Find My Phone is always active. So if you steal, in theory, if you steal a computer from or a phone from an Apple store, and even if you didn't use it yet, that if they have the serial number for that, then they could, in theory, track you. Now, whether they'd be interested in tracking you, I don't know. As you know, law enforcement is not interested in people stealing from stores. I guess you got to steal in the millions, otherwise they don't care. So, but the fact of the matter is, they can do that. So anyway, so back to topics again. So the idea of topics is to track you and put you in categories based on your interest. And so I want you guys to look at your settings in Chrome. This is Chrome only. This does not yet exist. It may be supported by the browsers in the future, but at the moment it's a Chrome only thing. So some companies, because the choice that Google is saying is either you use this topics and you no longer get device fingerprint, or browser fingerprinting, or you get nothing. So you have a choice, because you're not going to have browser fingerprinting anymore. So you have a choice. Either you have topics or you have nothing. So the question is, what do other browsers do? Do other browsers say, well, we'll keep doing browser fingerprinting, which is pretty bad. It's one of these things that, we want to stop on a browser. But they won't stop browser fingerprinting unless the browsers themselves implement the same rules as Chrome does. But if they do that, then they don't offer the advertisers any choice as far as getting some sort of idea who their customers are. And so they're hoping that this will, sell as a concept to other browsers. I've talked to advertising companies, because a friend of mine is in that business, and they don't think it's going to work too well. So they do not like topics. They think it's too restrictive, and I can see why, because it's basically Google deciding what breadcrumbs you're going to get from Google. They can track you better if they do browser fingerprinting, because they know exactly who you are and every click and all that. Now, Google does not need topics. This is something I just want to make sure you understand here. Topics is for third parties. By the way, topics is exposed. So any company can look at your topics. Okay? So any website can look at your topics. Anything that can go to your browser and look in JavaScript will be able to sense the topics you're interested in. Okay? I'm not sure you understand this. So I'm going to make it clear. Topics is public. That means your browser is going to publicly announce your topics. Okay? Let me repeat that. On Chrome, this is Chrome only, your topics, and they did this with Federated Learning of Cohorts. They advertised your cohorts without telling you that they're doing that, and because they did a test and they did that, and whatever you were doing. So if you were looking at political websites, third parties could have seen that. So now they're doing the same thing with topics. Now, topics are general categories, supposedly. I don't know how refined it is. I think it's more general. I don't think they're allowing it to like really go down and say, let's say you're interested in politics. So maybe the topic will be politics. I don't know if it'll actually say Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. I don't know I don't think it'll get to that level. So anyway, your topics is going to be exposed. Any website can query those topics if you allow it. Now, is this of concern to you? If you're doing browser fingerprinting, no. See, I told you I'm doing browser fingerprinting. Mine has no data. So if you go back to the replay when I showed the screen of the settings, mine has no topics. Why mine has no topics? Maybe it's not active yet, or maybe it's because I do browser fingerprinting. In the long term, we'll go figure this out. But I'm just giving you a heads up here as far as what's going on. You tell me, like I said, you go to your settings on your Chrome and see if any of you see any topics, and then just understand that those topics are exposed. Okay? Just want to make sure that it is as clear. Anyone, any website can see your topics. Okay? So that's hopefully that's interesting information for you. We'll continue with this and other topics in a moment. So let me take a station break for a moment, and we'll get back to this. Hope the signal was okay. Okay, so we're just going to take a short break while I talk about my sponsor, which is Linode, or Akamai Linode. Linode was purchased by Akamai, I think late last year, and as you know, Linode is a cloud service provider. It provides me with websites and servers. I have a ton of servers on Linode, And one of the reasons that I really like using Linode and having them as a sponsor is because this is really an example of a very well-run company, and they're so smooth, and they must have low cost because of the efficiency of the operation, and because they have such well-trained staff, that they must keep a very efficient kind of operation, and they're passing it to the customers. You can actually get servers on Linode for as cheap as $5 a month. So it's a very inexpensive proposition. If you go to other big providers of cloud services, for example, like AWS, and AWS is medium expensive. There are more expensive ones like Microsoft Azure is over the roof. Google Cloud, they're expensive. And many other players like GoDaddy and all. But Linode is actually pretty cheap. And given the quality of tech support, I don't think I've ever received any good tech support from Amazon AWS, and I've been with them for over a decade. And I don't, tech support is not part of what I expect from Amazon. It's like, go figure out yourself. Now, I'm able to actually go to Linode and ask them questions, and I don't have to feel, I have ongoing conversations with Linode, and my staff does every day. Because we have a ton of servers, and my guys have to talk to Linode people all the time, and so it's gives me good pleasure to tell you that it's they have really good tech support, and they're very flexible, and that's why I like them. So. My signal is kind of dropping here. Crazy while I'm doing this. Anyway, let's continue on with our Q&A. YouTube just ran a commercial at the 30-minute point. to match my commercial. My goodness. Okay, so it's a cloud. So Linode is a cloud provider. So if you need a website, that's a place to get the servers from. Okay. So iPhone uses for you. What does that mean? Okay, hold on. So Miss Kairos, yeah, so go to your Chrome, go to settings, privacy and security, and then there's a section there called add privacy, and then it will show your topics, and I'm interested to know if anyone has topics that are not empty if you are not doing browser isolation. So if they're all empty, maybe it's not yet active. Don't know. We'll find out, but I'm just making you aware of it, because when it becomes active, you have to understand what that means. It means the topics are advertised, meaning they're shown to any external party. Any external party can go to your browser, extract your topics. Okay, which is obviously very privacy invading. So depending on what your interests are, the ad company will get some general category. There's a limit to it. There's a certain, I forget the number, but you're not allowed to accumulate a large number of topics. So it's limited, and so you can. I forget what the limit is, but yeah, go to add privacy, and then you will see if you have any topics. So far, people are saying it's blank. So, yeah, but maybe you're doing browser isolation, in which case, maybe you're like mine, because mine is blank. So it's something we got to go figure out. Vienticus Prime. It's very hard to read. It's very tiny. It's very tiny text here. So if I'm not reading that correctly, do you think that seriously that someone will allow you to have some sort of private internet? I don't think so. Okay, yours. Okay, so Adam Smith has topics. Okay, so it is active, but those who are doing browser isolation says they're blank. If that's true, so we'll find out more. So let me explain browser isolation again for those who don't understand. And you see, I do browser isolation, so I'm very safe even with this topics thing. It doesn't bother me at all. Okay, so how does it work with browser isolation? I restrict. There are two platforms you really have to be aware of when it comes to browser isolation, and that is Facebook and Facebook properties, and then Google. Those are the only two categories of things that require isolation. Okay, just that, Facebook and Google. I want to isolate Facebook and Google. Now the question is, can you isolate Facebook and Google together? Now that's a good question. Would you put Facebook and Google on the same browser? I tend not to. Well, I'm not on Facebook, so I would never do that. But yeah, that's a good question. How much would it hurt you to do that? Because they're both bad, and you're isolated to themselves. You don't visit any other sites other than the platforms that are dangerous. Okay, so the idea is that you assign Chrome to the privacy invading platforms, in this case Google. You don't need to isolate Amazon. There is no reason to do that. The isolation only has to do with Google and Facebook. Now, why Google and Facebook needs to be isolated? Because when you're logged in to Google, let's talk Google for a moment here. When you're logged into, stop these comments about any other site, because you're missing the point here. Okay, you know, now I hear somebody saying Twitter is bad, Amazon's bad. That is irrelevant to this. It's nothing to do with this at all. Okay, none of them have the infrastructure to do any kind of tracking cross domain. There is no way for Amazon to track you outside of Amazon. There is no way for Spotify to track you outside of Spotify. There's no way for even Microsoft to track you outside of Microsoft. They don't have the infrastructure to handle that. The only two companies that have an infrastructure to handle cross-domain tracking to see what you're doing on the internet are Google and Facebook. So going back to Google for a moment, let me just make this clear, okay? The reason this is very unique is because you're logged into Chrome, into YouTube, so all these are your IDs and chat here. So I can see your name, so you're logged in under that name on YouTube. That is your Google ID. So your Google ID is registered. So Google can track that Google ID. Well, guess what, folks? Any website you visit, that Google ID is read by Google Analytics embedded in that website. It's not the website that's reading you. It's the Google code that's in the website, because every website has Google code in it nowadays. Okay? So again, let me repeat. So you go to, let's say you go to MSN.com, which is Microsoft, right? MSN.com, Microsoft. So you say, okay, you know, I have a Google ID, and of course, Microsoft doesn't know what that Google ID relates to. Microsoft does not see your Google ID. The only one that can see your Google ID is Google. Well, guess what? MSN.com has Google embedded in it because it's part of Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is google.com. Google.com can read the cookie that has your Google ID, which means, to translate into standard English here, is that any place you go to, your Google ID is being passed. And Google knows exactly what website you visited with that Google ID. Now, is Google going to share this with topics? Apparently not. So Google knows everything. Google knows specifically what website you visited, precisely why you were there. They actually can even know what you clicked on. They can scan the website content. They already do. That's part of Google search. They already know what context you went to that website for. So some of you may go, let's say you go to some alt news kind of site, and it knows you clicked on some article about something, and it knows what the article is because the Google ID is known, and Google scans that site as part of the robot for search, and it knows that. Okay, in contrast, Microsoft, MSN.com, doesn't know anything. You just came into the site, they tracked you coming in from an IP address. Beyond that, it doesn't really have much of a way to know anything unless you log into MSN or log into Microsoft, and then they will know that you logged into Microsoft and know who you are. But they can't do cross-device, meaning Microsoft can't know you went to the alt news site. They have no way of knowing that. Only Google does, and only Facebook does, because they have trackers in many websites. In the case of Google, it's Google Analytics. In the case of Facebook, it's the Facebook like button. Okay? So those are so pervasive, they're everywhere, that hopefully, the likelihood of having a Facebook like button is getting less and less. But as they lose popularity, then maybe it's getting becoming less and less of a threat. Google ID is always a threat. This is why I tell you that you use a de-Google phone, because what is the thing that identifies your phone? It's a Google ID. This is the connection between Google ID and everything else I talk about. Okay? So now, with topics, there's no Google ID because it's publicly loaded into Chrome. Your Chrome is advertising your topics without reference to a Google ID. Google knows more than it's showing in topics. So don't assume that the only thing Google knows is whatever is in topics. No. Whatever is in topics is what Google is sharing to external parties, not what they know. So don't be too trusting and say, oh yeah, Google doesn't really know much about me. Because some of you think that. Oh yeah, Google doesn't. I looked at topics. I didn't see much in there, so they must not know much about me. Wrong. Completely wrong. They know everything about your search history. They know search is by Google ID. They know everything that you visit, every website, because obviously that gets recorded. They know every URL, by the way, because of something called Google Safety Net. So your Google ID, Google Safety Net. They know obviously what you're doing, YouTube and so on, and then they match all that to a Google ID, and they have a complete profile of you. There is no more Brax phone. At least not at the moment. So until a new model comes out, there is no Brax phone. So we have Google Pixels. I'll let you know if a new Brax phone is going to be available, in which case I can put on a pre-order. But it looks like that's still going to be a while. So don't expect it right now. If you made a noob-friendly video to use as the Google phone, I already have that Inspector Music. My de-Google video has 1.2 million views. So just go watch that. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. So yeah, just look for the Google phones into my channel. It's the most, yeah, it's 1.2 million views. I don't know when Brax 3 will come out. I don't know if it'll come out in fall. Can't tell you. Because we're already in September. It's not anywhere near ready. So I don't. Yeah, it's gonna be a while. It's probably late in the year. This at the earliest, late this year. So yeah, can't go rush it. There's some issues. So anyway, hopefully you learned from what I was talking about. Again, check out your Chrome browser. Look at the topics because that's being advertised about you. So I'm interested to see what it shows about your topics. I just wanted to see what kind of categories are on there because mine is blank. So since mine is blank, I don't really know what it's going to say. So if we get a little bit more history here, maybe we can tell people what it expects you to be revealing in topics. I don't think it's that fine. I think it's, you're interested in sports. I think it's just general categories like that. So if you're going to, ESPN, it'd probably say sports, is my guess. Some of you can tell me how refined your topics are. So now, Mysticulous makes a comment, but let me just say something here, just to make it clear to you. I use Chrome, logged into Google, knowing that Google knows what I'm doing on that browser. I'm logged in. Okay? I'm logged in, so it must know what I'm doing on that browser. Now, since topics came about, I haven't really done anything, but typically in the past, and I haven't done it because I haven't had time, what I do is I purposely go to sites I don't normally go to and do it on Chrome. Okay, so now why do I do that? Because somebody's watching over my shoulder. So yeah, there's Google with their binoculars looking over here from my shoulder and saying, what is he doing? Because that's exactly what it is. Okay, somebody's watching over my shoulder. Now, which is good because you know what's happening. You know that somebody is watching over your shoulder. Therefore, feed it the information you want. So I can feed Google information that says, okay, let me tell her what I like. Let's see if Google can make heads or tails out of it, or maybe I'm inconsistent. It depends on what your goal is, but sometimes you say, okay, let me come out as politically apathetic, and maybe I go to both Fox News and CNN. That's an example. And certainly nothing alt news, just MSM, and I do it on Chrome, then they can see that. Okay, and then it's put part of your profile and attached to my Google ID that I use for YouTube. So, you can make a choice because you have many Google IDs. Potentially, every one of your Gmail accounts is a Google ID, and you can assign it to a profile. You can create activity for it that you want Google to see. So just understand though that if you using a phone, they know what the IMEI is. They can match multiple Google IDs to one person if you have a phone, because they can check the IMEI, the MZ, and say, oh, same person. They can semi-do it with an IP address, but that's not guaranteed because it could be a family, it could be another member of the family. But the IMEI, that's guaranteed. If they can track the IMEI and say, oh, that's you. Now, if you have a Brax 2 phone where we share IMEIs, where lots of you have the same IMEIs, like large groups of you have the same IMEIs, potentially hundreds per IMEI, they're not going to get much information. So that's good. So Brax 2 is the only one where you can't use an IMEI as an identifier because it's meaningless. Okay, so yeah, Brax 2 you can change IMEI all day. You can change it every day. You can switch between two IMEIs, every week. You can do that. You can do it to Brax 2 or any future version of Brax. You'll be able to change the IMEI. We will let you do that, and that's what phone can allow you to do that. So it's a nice trick. Why aren't you running for president? As if I hate politics, by the way. So I wasn't born in America, so I can't run for president. I suppose I can run for something else, just not president. Yeah, I guess I don't have to be born here to be a senator, or it's a congressman, one of those. Okay, I just realized my topics are empty because I said no. Well, don't leave it empty. Turn it on so you know what's going on. Yeah, don't turn it off yet. Learn the opposition, my friends. Don't give all the advantage to the opposition. Learn something about the opposition. So yeah, I don't turn off my topics. I want to see what it's doing. So sorry, says Chrome wants an update but can't find the settings Rob said. It's privacy settings. So you go to settings. Do I have to show that again? Now sound is going to disappear when I do this. Okay, let me show it to you again, but hold on. I'm going to see if I can add sound. The sound will disappear while I set this up. So hold on a second, okay? Sound will disappear when I change screen. So hold on. Okay, watch the sound. Okay, sound. Okay, I should have sound. Okay. So there it is. It's settings. And the subsection is called privacy and security. So settings, you click on here and there's settings. Okay? So click on that three dots on the right there and you'll see settings. And then scan down and look for privacy and security, and this is what this section is. And there it is, add privacy. So you click on that and add topics, and mine is blank. Mine is enabled and blank. Okay, so you need to all check that and then report later and see what you find. Okay, so hopefully the sound, you heard what I said. Was the sound working? I'm just seeing the chat right now. Okay. The sound. Did you see this? Did you hear the sound when I was showing you that? Click on privacy and security, I believe. So I just need confirmation that you heard what I said. It seemed like it was giving sound. Okay, so sound was working. Okay, so check that. Let's all report. Maybe you go discuss it on Brax.me and see what yours say. I'm interested in is it general categories? How refined is it, or does it just say sports, or is it specific football? Baseball. I mean, I'm just just curious about how they're tracking. Google promises it's a big category. However, it doesn't matter. It's a big category. It's public. Your browser is openly stating that these are your topics. Okay, are we clear on that? Your browser openly states to anyone on the other side what your topics are. Okay, so again, that may be quite a privacy issue depending on how fine the topics are. Right? So, because it may suggest something else, like, some kind of extremist behavior in their mind based on what is shown in the topics. And that's the problem with some of these. They categorize you, and they categorize you in ways that you have no input on, and the categorization may be inaccurate. And this is based simply on what you clicked on. You will not see anything in settings. By the way, just to make it clear again, you will not see topics in any other browser other than Chrome. Okay, this is a Chrome only thing. And no, a VPN is not going to impact on topics. You will get topics whether you have a VPN or not. Okay, you cannot find topics if you do not have Chrome. It is a Chrome thing only. So Adam Smith says news, local news. At least it didn't say what kind of news. Interesting. So Adam Smith says news, local news, which is which I presume will indicate politics of some sort. So this is currently a Chrome only thing. Yeah, I have Chrome. Yes, did you disable it? Lenscope pairing. Did you disable it, or is it enabled? You should leave it on and see what it says. At least if you're using browser isolation, you don't need to worry about it. So I don't need to worry about it. I actually want to know what Google knows about me on Chrome, since that is my direct avenue to the AI. I'm telling the AI what I wanted to think about me. Okay? So I want the AI to know about me, and I want the AI to know about me in a way that I control, and that's why I do browser isolation. And the fact that Chrome is spying on me is perfect. Okay, again, just making it clear. I know Chrome is spying on me, and I love that because I know it's spying on me. Therefore, I control what it can spy on as long as I isolate Chrome to whatever I want Chrome to see. I do not do normal things on Chrome. I do not go to Amazon or any other website on Chrome. Chrome is Google only, or whatever I want it to see. So let's say I just give you an example. Let's say I'm going to let's say I want, this doesn't really apply to me, but let's say I want Google to know that I am pro-vaccination. Okay, and I want Google to know that. Then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to some website that has pro-vax commentary on it. I'm going to be clicking all that. And I know that Google's going to see that, and it's going to be perfect. By the way, some of you are apparently going to see ads right now. Let me skip it. At least it's presenting me an option. Okay. Okay, so browser isolation is a very, nice way to control the what do you call that? You control what they know. You know, we will not feel like a victim when it comes to browser isolation. When you're doing browser isolation, you're in control. You can feed the AI what you want to feed it. They don't take data from you. You give it the data you want. Okay? So that's why I don't mind having Chrome spy on me, so I can control what the AI. Maybe you don't understand this, so let me, because I haven't really made a topic on this recently, and I wasn't planning on anything recently. I mean, doing anything in the near future about this, and that is the Google AI. So the Google AI is called, I forget the name of the Google AI, Bard, I think. So Bard is scouring the internet. It knows your profile, knows everything about you, and you're feeding information to Bard with everything you do. This is different from ChatGPT. ChatGPT does not know your personal profile. Bard is very dangerous because it knows your personal profile. It knows everything that Google knows, knows your Google ID, knows any of this. Browser isolation is the same computer, yes. Just different browsers. So Bard, everything you do with a Google ID is known to the AI, Bard. So maybe this is a good subject for future video. So now you understand why browser isolation is more important than ever, because then you control the narrative. That was the word I was looking for. You control the narrative. You actually feed the AI what you want it to see based on the Chrome spyware that's spying on what you're doing. In the meantime, you use Brave for something else. So my main browser for everything else is Brave. So whatever I do on Amazon, what I buy in the store on Amazon, or you know, banking or news or anything else I look at, I do on Brave. And I have another browser that I use for YouTube that is not logged in. Okay, so whatever I do on any other browser is not logged in. I don't like to go to Google on the Brave browser. I want to use another anything to do with Google. I'd rather use a third browser not logged in. Okay, so now what is happening here? So your main transmission route of information is through Chrome, direct to Google, to Bard. You are feeding Bard information about you. Well, heck, that is an opportunity. We don't get that much of an opportunity to feed it data that you want. Okay, so you define whatever you want your persona to be, and you go do that on Chrome every day, and that gets fed into the AI. And AI, for example, let's say you want Google to think you're very charitable. So let's say all you do on Chrome, aside from watching videos and doing whatever that you normally do on Google stuff like YouTube, logged in, is you go to all these charitable organizations. Let's say you go to the Red Cross and sites of that nature where you're contributing to society, and it's all about donations and all that, and that's all they see. Okay, that's all they see, that you give to the I think it's called City of Hope here, the cancer hospital for children, or children's hospital, or what, I forget the name, but I always see advertising for that. So maybe I go to that website. So now you're feeding a persona to Chrome. Oh my gosh, this person is very kind, says the AI. This person is very giving. So that's because that's all it sees. It sees all of your activity, and you're so focused on that every day. You're always visiting these sites where it has to do with charity, and Yeah, and maybe you're like searching for Sister Teresa, you know, things like that. You're like you're focused on, maybe you're focused on searching for characters like that, and that's all Google sees, and Google will say, "Wow, this person's a saint." Okay, so forget about Tor browser, forget about any of that. This is your challenge here. You actually have a chance to reverse the flow of data to Bard. Yes, maybe this is a good topic. Maybe we need to make a video of this. This is they don't know that they're giving you, that you're giving money or not. That doesn't, you know, that's not part of what Google IDs do. Google ID just says, "What are you doing?" And it says the website has your Google ID, and you go to the site. It doesn't have anything to do with knowing that you actually give money to them. They don't know that. I'm just giving you an example where you control the narrative to the AI, and many of you don't realize it does go to an AI because it's Bard. The AI of Google is the most dangerous one. It's different. This is why probably Elon Musk was very concerned about the Bard AI versus, you know, even OpenAI with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is about language intelligence, being able to parse the language, understand what you're saying, and then take its collective knowledge based on that, and so on. Bard has access to everything that Google has access to, which means everyone's profile and everyone's activity and beyond anything, way beyond what topics can ever do to you. So Cosmic Rose has been confusing YouTube. Well, you're not going to confuse YouTube if you turn off YouTube history. So turn on YouTube history if you really want to confuse them. Yeah, Startpage is still good. I follow Startpage on Twitter, on X, and then you actually see what they're focused on, and they've been really, focused on the right things lately. So I'm, I have direct contact with Startpage. In fact, they sponsored me for a while, and even though it's a small company, they're a Google proxy. So many people don't understand that, and Google proxy means that they get search engine stuff from Google, and they do feed you ads. So that's the way they make money. They pay Google for the search results. So it costs them money, and then they feed you ads, and they make money from the ads. But the ads are not personalized because it's a proxy. They don't actually know who you are. So the Google sees a Startpage user, Startpage itself as the user, not the actual individual. So I have Startpage on my Chrome. Doesn't mean just because I'm on Chrome feeding Google, I don't need to give it too much information. So I use Startpage on my Chrome. So, I mean, come on, there's a limit to how much information I will give Google, and the last thing I want to give them is anything to do with search history. Are robots going to use AI? Yes, of course robots are going to use AI. They already are. What do you think a Tesla is? Tesla is a robot. So Tesla itself is making robots now, but a Tesla is just a driving robot. It is a robot. Is there a translation app that does not track your info? Well, you know the best translation apps are on Google. So you can use Google on a browser where you're not logged in, and then it can't track you. Okay, so you can do that. You can go, so let's say use Firefox for anything Google that you don't want it to track you without a login. So if you want it to track you based on what you're typing on your Google Translate, then go ahead and do it on Chrome. But if you want them not to track you, then you go to a different browser. Okay, so I do that. I go to a different browser. If let's say, again, let's theorize here. Let's say I want to check out gun videos. I don't want Google to see I'm looking at gun videos. By the way, that's in reality that's actually important because Google is may treat you differently if you're interested in gun videos. Okay, especially if you're a creator. So, so I wouldn't want to go to my normal account on Chrome and ever watch a gun video there. So I will not click on a gun video on Chrome. Okay. So let's say I want to do that. Again, theoretical. Then I go to Firefox and go to YouTube, and then I search for the same gun video that I just saw on my other one, but I click it on Firefox where I'm not identified because I'm not logged in. Okay, and then I can search for whatever I want. I never log in to Google on the Firefox that I have in this example. Again, just an example. You can search for any. I can think of any topic. It's just it's just what you want Google to see, what you want Google not to see. Okay. So what else? We have 19 minutes. Okay, so don't be afraid, because some of you have actually come to me and said Startpage is feeding me ads and that really worries me. Don't worry about that, because the ads are based on what you search for. So on Startpage, let's say you search for cars. Well, don't be surprised if it feeds you ads on cars because you just searched for it. But it's not going to feed you search data based on you personally, because it tracked you and knows who you are by your Google ID. It says, I will really personalize this ad because I know that you're pro-environment and you only want to look at electric cars, and that's the only ads you see. See, that's more personalization because it knows you. Bard does not hoard any information on you. You don't know this, Art. And I just use Bard as an example. They have all pieces of data on everyone at Google. They can feed that to any AI, and they can say to the AI, okay, you're not going to get this data. They can have multiple AIs. You don't know any of this. Why would you, if you were Google, why would you not want to do an AI on everything? And maybe you don't publicly state it. Okay? You're Bard. Well, then that's not part of Bard then. It may be something else. So I'm just saying Google AI in general, because they may have different learning models. So I better not refer to Bard precisely, just whatever Google AI, because if you're a Bard tester, then you know more about what its limitations are. Go ask it who Rob Braxman is. I want to see if it gives you a different answer than ChatGPT makes things up. I did a video and I asked ChatGPT who Rob Braxman is. It gave me two different answers, and it really came up with a story that it's a story. So what's an ad? How do you know which ads are actually malware while you're online? The ads themselves are not malware. They're just ads. If you click on them, then there's the potential for something. But most of these are vetted by Google, so they're not going to be bad in that sense. The badness comes later, because a typical ad window pushed by, let's say, double click, which is Google, will extract your browser fingerprinting information and then track you, and then everywhere you go, it knows still you're the same person. How safe are password managers? They're pretty safe, Jay. I'm less trusting with password managers. I use KeePass with a local database. Yeah, I don't really do any online. I'm sure it's safe, but I don't do it. I just use KeePass and I manually pass the database on my Synology drive, because I have a Synology drive. Are you a fan of Odd Blocker Plus? I don't need to do any of that. I run a VPN service, as you know. I also use a VPN router in my house. And so everything I do is going to the VPN. The VPN is doing the ad blocking through Pi-hole. So it prevents the domains. It's a domain blocker. So it blocks the domains of, doubleclick.net and all that. It is not the same according to Bard. What is not the same, Art? My info about me? Bard likes me. ChatGPT was actually overstating my employment credentials, because it says that I worked for HP, Google, Microsoft, and all this, and just like suck. I've never worked for those companies. Bart likes me best. I have just so you all know, I'm for most of my career, I was I worked once for somebody else when I was young. So when I was young, I worked for somebody else, and I have not worked for anybody else during the time of, big tech was not around back then, but during the whole time that big tech has been around, I've always worked for myself. So the only employer that should show up when you search me on ChatGPT or Bard or wherever should be myself, because I've been my own employer in all this time. I've owned many companies. So I've started many companies, and that's about the only employer I've had. I've never had to work for anybody else. Yeah. Where can I post? On Brax Me, obviously, James. Or it's probably too long to post in the chat. Yeah, Brax Me. I'm not a Bard user. Bard is a nice guy then. Let's trust him. You know what a bard is, right? It's like a minstrel. Like the minstrel in The Witcher, the guy that's always singing. That's what a bard is. I keep trying to find a job that I can do myself. I hate working for other people. Yeah, I even when I was working for somebody else, I was already starting my own software product. Many years at night, I would be programming at night, coming up with my own product while I was working for somebody else. So, and I did a good job at work, but I hardly slept. I was making my own software product, and my first product that I made for myself was a graphics product. So I made a graphics program back in the early days of PC world. So I got put into all the different magazines, and I was in every magazine, every PC, PC World, PC Magazine, PC Week, PC, all of that. So yeah, so and my software was reviewed and all that as well, and yeah, so yeah, I only work for uh, I only work for myself, so that's the actual correct information that should be known by Bard or by ChatGPT, and apparently they don't know that. Is it time for us to dump it for a good GNU Linux distro? I'm already doing that, Neil. So I'm using what is it I'm using here? What do you call this? The Pop OS. I'm using Pop OS. So right in front of me here is Pop OS. So Bart and Zuck may be friends. I'm sure Zuck is doing his own AI as well. Come on, don't trust the guy. I'm sure he has his own AI. So, Art, are you sovereign man? Is that what you're saying? Linux a good company to work for? No, Linux is not a company. Unless you want to work for Torvalds himself. No, Linux is not a company. Are VMs safe to use so your PC not get infected? Yes. I have many videos on VMs. Because of the restricted use I put on my machines, I actually have multiple machines, so I don't have to worry about VMs. I have a lot of computers, so like right now I have, I'm looking at two separate computers here while I'm doing this live stream. I got Rumble on one, and then I got YouTube, and then OBS on the other. And so I have a stack of laptops. So I always have multiple laptops next to me. So instead of a VM, I have those, and it for me it's faster, and I'm able to do more isolation of what I'm doing because I can actually see the actual operating system rather than the slowness of a VM. Okay, so I paid cash for the school to become a paramedic. Well, that's pretty good. Do I trust Bill Gates? Hell no. Now, I did benefit from Bill Gates. Bill Gates presented my software in 1992. Yeah, he went on stage and showed people the world my software. So, so I should like him, right? But, he's kind of weird. I'll be frank with you, okay? So, yeah, one of the things that really bugged me about Bill Gates was he actually during the time when Apple was being asked to break the iPhone for the FBI, and Apple said no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to break into the phone, just based on an FBI request. And on the side, Bill Gates was in the press saying Apple should in fact break the phone security and give the information to the FBI, meaning he was into breaking the security. Well, I don't trust anybody that thinks like that. So that's just an example. So that's just an example of why I wouldn't trust him. I didn't realize the VPN blocked ads. My VPN blocks ads. Not all ads, but it blocks domains. It does a fairly good job of basically hiding your presence. The other thing that my VPN does is aggregate all of your DNS, so you don't have to worry about your DNS. It'll show your DNS being Google or Cloudflare, depending on which server actively displays that, but it doesn't actually know that the real DNS for VPN users on Bytes VPN, it's actually Pi-hole. So Pi-hole server is running for every VPN user, and you're aggregated so that if, let's say you want to search for msn.com, it will only be searched once and it's cached. So nobody actually sees traffic coming out of DNS because Pi-hole for all the VPN users is just everything you search for will be searched for only once because it's in the cache. So so that hides the traffic as well as makes sure that there's no identity because you don't individually go to Google DNS or to Cloudflare or anybody else. So that's the advantage of Bytes VPN. And Bytes VPN is unique in that. I believe we're the only one to do that, and we do not block email. If you go use many of the email products out there, you know, like Nord, Private VPN, ExpressVPN, on, they block email. We don't block email. Thank you, Philip. Thank you. Can browser isolation keep our privacy without VPN? No, you always need a VPN in order to stop them from getting the IP address. That's the only purpose of VPN, is the IP address. Okay, we have 4 minutes. Okay, so Bytes VPN, if you're going to talk about VPNs, let's make sure we mention the VPN that supports this channel, which is my VPN. It's Bytes VPN, and that's the one I'm talking about, that has Pi-hole and the ad blocking and the aggregated DNS. That's on Bytes VPN. Yeah, you need the VPN. I mean, that should be obvious. Yeah, I mean, unless you get to the point where you say, well, I don't need to hide my IP address. And there are moments where you don't need to hide your IP address. And for example, if you're using Starlink, you don't need a VPN. If you're using cell data, you don't need a VPN because third parties cannot see your IP address. So there are exceptions, but if you want to be safe at your house, and this is the specific risk, the main purpose of a VPN is to hide your house IP address, meaning your DSL IP address. That's the one you want to protect at your house. If you travel and you're someplace else and you don't want to use a VPN, okay, fine. It's not going to hurt you much. It may affect your cybersecurity, but it's not going to hurt you from a privacy point of view. However, you can get hacked on a public network, so that's why you want to use a VPN on a public network. But that's a different issue. But at your house, you must use a VPN. At your house, you must. It's not really a choice. That's why I use a VPN router in my house, because I don't want an exception. So we all get our traffic through a VPN router. That means all traffic here is routed through a VPN router. Does it slow you down? Yeah, of course it slows me down, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, everything functions as normal. So, I mean, you don't need ultra whatever speeds if you're going to give up your privacy. Okay, guys, so we're out of time, and I really appreciate your coming over tonight to watch. And hopefully you learn a few things tonight, and I will see you next week, same time.